I think the integration that we spoke about previously and the acceleration in terms of actually doing deals, because the proof of the pudding is always in the eating. I think all the businesses that we've done, and even including the one that's not purely in the tokenization space, but we'll shortly announce a pretty big collaboration in agentic AI. They're all making good headway, and they're making quick ground in their markets.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Valerium CEO Gary Cottle. Gary, very good to speak with you again. You've described Valerium's ecosystem as world-class and ready for mainstream adoption. Can you explain what sets it apart from other players in the digital assets and tokenization space?
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for having me on again. Well, I think ready for adoption is because it's in the process of we're now actually delivering on it. So I think in terms of setting it apart, there's two things. World class, clearly, the companies that we've invested in are definitely category winners in their own right. So if you take DigiShares and Fidium as the perfect examples, that they're already quite mature in a very immature market, and they're already kind of cutting new ground, as it were, with some of the transactions they're doing. So I think setting them apart, I think they've proven themselves over the last 6 or 9 months, early adopters. These are, I don't want to call them mature businesses because we're still very early days in that market, but they are pretty much in their top three, top five. They could easily be category winners in the space. They're doing transactions and they're accelerating growth quite quickly now. So I think in terms of the world class, we're very happy being able to invest in those businesses. We think they've proven them, and a couple of the collaborations that have already been announced with both of them are proving that to be the case. We're shortly also due to announce a few more, and I think that will basically provide more evidence just of their standing in their markets and bringing them together. So we've already basically replaced our wallet, which was a tokeny wallet, with actually the DigiShares infrastructure. And the regulator that'll already be adopted across Valerium markets, we hope in the very near future. So I think the integration that we spoke about previously and the acceleration in terms of actually doing deals, because the proof of the pudding is always in the eating. I think all the businesses that we've done, and even including the one that's not purely in the tokenization space, but we'll shortly announce a pretty big collaboration in agentic AI. They're all making good headway, and they're making quick ground in their markets. So hopefully that will provide some comfort to existing investors and to the markets. And we're also being approached a lot more to do other collaborations. I think it's particularly interesting for us. The way we focused on building what I would call the issuance side and the expertise to be able to be the subject matter expert in RWA tokenization. Now, to be invited to join into the distribution side of the business by very big distribution platforms, I think is a good accolade for what those businesses and Valerium as a whole is trying to achieve.
The Valerium Markets platform supports regulated real-world asset issuances, as you mentioned. What types of assets are you targeting first, and how soon could investors expect to see activity here?
Well, they already are. So we've got, as I say, we did a soft launch, I think, because we wanted to basically just get the testing of that right. I think for those keen followers, they will have spotted that we sponsored one of the big national teams in our football teams in El Salvador. So we sponsored their shirts. So we're very, I don't use the word prevalent, but we're certainly moving fast in the football club. Football club's highly illiquid, got a lot of illiquid assets, ripe for tokenization. We've probably spoken to 4 or 5 Premiership football clubs as well, even though the UK is obviously further behind because of the regulatory framework. So in some interesting cases, I think there's I would say from gold mines to effectively the metals inventory that comes out of the ground to real estate, which again fits lovely right in the sweet spot of DigiShares. So I would say not an eclectic group. We probably won't be doing. You saw the tokenization of one of the Japanese banks' deposits very recently, which was a couple of billion or a couple of trillion. It's a very large transaction. We won't be focusing on those, but there'll be some eclectic assets that people have previously failed to finance or securitize, or they're just difficult to do because of the nature of them. But they're asset backed, obviously, because the RWA has got the word asset. and they vary hugely at the moment. So, but we've got the pipeline is increasing by the day, and Valerian Markets, I think, if we haven't already announced, I just need to be a little bit tricky to be careful about because we're still in our closed period. But I think there's a handful of transactions that have already been announced, and there's 5 or 6 behind that. And I know DigiShares, where we don't need to be too cautious, have a number of landmark transactions in the Middle East that they are announcing now.
Gary, you mentioned fast-tracking growth. What are the key milestones or developments that investors should be watching for over the next 6 to 12 months?
For us, it's revenues. Right, we're at the point where we've built a bunch of technologies. Some of them have worked, some of them haven't. Some of them have become obsolete. We've done a lot of integration. We think we've chosen the first group of partners correctly. We probably would like, subject to revenues and funding, we probably have our eye on 3 or 4 others. Again, we've had a couple of really interesting approaches to people to effectively do the buy and build and finance some of that, and we're very much looking forward to that. For us, there is no better milestone than revenues and growth, and that's what all of us, whether it's Corey and George at Bluebird or Anna at Fidium, and particularly Klaus, as I say, his business is already pretty mature, so it's pure go-to-market for us. And the company's pivoted a lot, so it's gone from an awful lot of technology focus around building expertise. Most people at Valerium these days, 90% of our efforts around BD. And we're very happy with that, and our partners are the same, actually. Yeah, so it's pretty much the proof of the pudding with all these things, particularly in early stage, previously troubled companies, is you have to basically now start doing deals. So that's our focus.
Gary, I hope you'll keep us updated with your progress. Thank you very much for taking the time today.
Yep, likewise. Thanks for having me on, Stephen. Have a good afternoon.
And you, Gary Cottle, CEO of Valerium.